one of the ones that you already mentioned, which I'm sure you get questions about this all the time, so I apologize in advance.
All good.
But it's related to like superventilation. People might have heard of like Wim Hof, like that type of breathing, where just think about you're sustaining like a mild hyperventilation for a period of time, and that's going to help shift your state. So for the average CrossFit athlete, is that something that you would recommend doing as a long-term practice?
Man. Well, here, how about this? First, any practice is better than no practice. So if the choice is do nothing or do superventilation, then I choose superventilation, because at least you can start to have some kind of feedback loop with how your breathing affects the way you feel. And then you can start learning and making adjustments. So yeah, I think it's fine if you find yourself attracted to that method and it's kind of easy to fit into your life. It's kind of like, should somebody squat, or, does everybody need to squat? And there's some debate about it. It's like, well, I don't know, man. I'd rather have people squat imperfectly than not squat at all.
Right.
Because at least you can go, well, we have some standard of how your body should move through space. And then now we can generate a conversation. You can start generating a conversation, not just with your coach, but like with your own body, and go, hey, what the heck is going on? Like, how come I can't squat down? How come that guy over there, who's a similar age and height and all that, how come that dude can squat down, but I can't squat down? Now at least we're thinking about it, right? Which is better than just remaining ignorant.
Right. Maybe you compare it to like, Wim Hof might be like the equivalent of CrossFit if you're talking about exercise, where it's like, yeah, if you only do like Metcons every day, you're going to learn a lot about your body, and you're probably going to get in decent shape. You're probably going to have some other stuff that you might be able to shift and maybe do differently that might help you out over the long term, but that's better than nothing for sure.
Sure. And I think, if I'm totally frank, I think better than nothing is exactly what it sounds like. It doesn't mean it, you know what I mean? It's better than nothing, but it doesn't mean it's sufficient. Does that make sense? So,
absolutely.
So one of the things that we've found is that, and why we broke from any methodology, is because you have the sort of general response to whether it's exercise prescription, but then there's the individual response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we use CrossFit as an example, you have CrossFit's sort of general methodology, functional movement. So, high intensity movement, so large load over long distances, right? And that is a fantastic inroad, but we all know that once you start, especially if you're a coach, or if you just look around in your own gym, there's a lot of individuation going on. There's like what's prescribed, like, 225 deadlift today, right? And you've got like 10% or less of the population in your facility who can do that with proficiency. And then everybody else is like, like Tom over there has a bad back, so he's doing rack pulls. And, Susie is new, so her deadlift is actually 75 pounds. And this person over there is doing a little bit less reps. And this person, but there's you have to have some general prescription to begin with, or you can't even have a conversation. Where we started to come in and look at things was, if individuation is a better expression, how do we assess people? And so rather than you think about any protocol, how can we assess people in a way that's simple and direct, and then based on those assessments, give some intelligent recommendations. One downside of any superventilation, whether it's a Wim Hof or it comes from yoga, is that we've seen it, people who have anxiety, or people who, it's initiated panic attacks.
Yeah, seriously.
It can generate issues for people who have blood pressure problems or who have cardiovascular issue. So it does have some danger associated with
Yeah.
prolonged superventilation like that you have to be aware of. But again, I think for most of the general population, especially if you don't have a pre-existing condition, it's good to think about it. And a lot of people get started there, and then at some point they go, well, what else do I do? And then they learn more, which is great. And you see that with CrossFit too. People do CrossFit and then they go, man, Olympic lifting sure is cool. Let me learn more about how this, like, what is this expression of this sport, and why are these movements like this? And then you can have a cool conversation with somebody about becoming more proficient at that aspect.
Yeah. I think people probably get into superventilation initially just because it's so intense that it reveals what your breath can actually do for you.
Yeah, they feel something,
Yeah,
right? They
exactly. It
feel
like
something.
changes. Yeah.
That's the same reason people, like, if they haven't felt any, they've been working out and it's boring, and they've been walking on a treadmill and they're by themselves and they haven't made any friends. And then you go to a CrossFit gym and you go, oh man, this is hard work. I feel something when I do this. And that person over there is working hard and they're encouraging me to work hard, and there's some sense of measurement, right? Okay, I'm into this. And I think that's the main thing is feeling something, is that people are drawn to something where they can feel some kind of change. Um, and when you're talking about more parasympathetic driven, slow breathing practice, the feeling of change is prolonged, right? You have to wait for it. And that's why it's good to have a measurement tool. So for us, we use a CO2 tolerance test that was derived from an old freediving test. And then we gave people, now we have some scoring system, and people go, oh, okay, I see there's a number associated with my proficiency, which for us was a more effective road to take, and takes into consideration a little bit more of the whole picture regarding physiology. Because one thing I've certainly learned is that you cannot balk at the vast sort of tendrils that breath has inside of human physiology. It's pretty incredible, and the more layers you peel back, the more things you realize it affects, and how many things it's affected by. And you go, ooh, oh man, I better not do this haphazardly. I better pay attention to what's going on. Um, so